What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo. Tonight, we are at the theater for our spoiler-free review of Joker, Folie À Deux.
Oh, you got it right. I didn't know it. That's nice.
I practiced it in the mirror like 700 times before we came here tonight. That was about as much effort as I could put in. But we're here. We're going to see this movie.
What's the hype level?
I mean, the hype level for me is pretty low. I didn't think this movie needed to be made. Like, the first one I enjoyed. I thought it was really well done. But I didn't see a need for part two.
Right.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have this vision. It's going to be tremendous. We're going to all come out of here smiling and happy, and we'll let everybody know.
Maybe we'll be laughing at how bad it was. You never know.
I keep going back and forth on it because on one hand, when I first heard that it was being made, then they're like, okay, so we're making a Joker sequel. Everybody loved Joaquin Phoenix in it, and they're like, hey, we're going to make a second one, and we're going to introduce Harley Quinn. Okay, well, that's an interesting take. And then they're like, and hey, by the way, it's a musical, and I was like, less feeling that. So I'm kind of like mid on it because I kind of want to see what they're going to do with it, but at the same time, I'm like Keith. Is this needed? So I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think so either. I just think they were capitalizing on a big movie. What, did it make $1 billion the first one?
It did, yeah.
So my hype level for this is right at about, I'd say it's less than 1.
Do you think this is executives getting a sequel made because they think it's going to have the box office draw of the original?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Where's my drink?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I could definitely see that. But that also makes me wonder then, if they think that this is going to be a big draw, why didn't they release Batwoman or Batgirl?
Yeah, good point. Well, you know what? Let's go in and see.
Okay.
We'll be right back. We'll let you know what we thought. We've seen it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, I am real, Doug.
Yeah.
At least in my story.
That was a movie. They put it on the screen.
Yeah.
And we watched it.
They made it, like there was cameras, actors involved.
Don't know
And-
why.
Did you know there was music in that movie?
There was different types of music. There was the songs, which they could have truly left out, and there was the score that was really good.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
I think
There was-
Joaquin cannot sing. Maybe he can hit the notes, but he can't sing.
I agree.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because before we went to go see the movie, and actually when we were talking about this during one of our live streams, again, we were under the assumption, because this is kind of how they pitched it, this was going to be a musical. I actually kind of disagree with that point. I didn't see this as a musical. A musical it's kind of a beast in itself. They write songs specifically for the movie usually, and it kind of carries the narrative of the film. That's not what this was.
No.
This was a movie, kind of, and then they would intercut it with songs every now and again. And I don't know about you two, but it kind of reminded me almost of the first Suicide Squad movie, where they would just randomly jam in songs that didn't seem to fit with what was going on.
In that aspect, yes.
Yeah.
It definitely
I see
had that
that.
same feeling.
I see that.
And, it was just an incredibly disjointed movie. Like, the first scene, like, the first 20 minutes of it maybe, I was like, all right, this is really good.
Well,
I'm like,
the very beginning? With the
No, not the cartoon part.
Yeah, that was.
There is a cartoon that's on.
That was
I was
weird.
trying to forget about that.
Yeah, that was
But the
terrible.
first 20 minutes or so, I'm like, okay, this is a lot like the first one. It had my interest, and then it just did some things that I was like totally taken out, couldn't get back into it. It really, like, some positives we were talking about. The acting. Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga, pretty much everyone in this film does a really good job.
Did a good job, yeah. I can
See,
definitely give them
disagree
plus
with
for
all
that.
that. I don't agree with that at all.
No.
But that's fine. Keep going.
Yeah, cinematography was
Really good.
Great. I mean, this was shot really well. Had a lot of good camera angles and scenes, and I think they did a good job with that. And the score was phenomenal. I don't know if I mentioned that. I think I did. But all of that couldn't make up for how this plot was structured
No.
and just how it went. It really just was.
Well, when they inserted the songs and you heard them coming, that was a plot disruption for me.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? And then they would sing about things that were supposedly happening,
Kind of.
and then they'd go back to the movie, and you'd be like, all right, where are we? What am I doing?
Well, so what I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it for you in the event that, and if you do want to go see it, but we thought that they were going to use kind of a similar structure to what they did with the first movie, and sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. It was sort of like they started filming this movie several years ago, stopped, and they kind of picked it up a few years later, and they're like, wait, where did we leave off? I don't know, do a song. I mean, it was kind of weird.
It almost felt like there was 2 different directors.
Yeah.
Or 3. Like
That's
it really
how I
felt like
felt.
different people were pushing their own vision into it, and
Yeah.
it didn't really make much sense. Or
And
wasn't
like maybe
very
they weren't
entertaining.
communicating with each other. I don't know. It did feel very disjointed
And it
multiple
was-
times throughout it.
And I know this is not normally a problem for me, being very slow paced, but this movie, it really did. For me, it dragged. And I don't mind slow pace as long as it's interesting, but it felt
something
like
with it.
things were carried out
There
way
was too much
long.
silence too. Like when they'd be talking, and then one person would stop, and then the camera would sit on them for like, I don't know, 10 seconds while they're not saying anything. It's just like, let's go here, let's move the plot along. And nope, you're just gonna sit here and actually a cigarette. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
So speaking of elements like that, you had mentioned a moment ago that you weren't a fan of the acting.
yeah. Well, no, none of it. I didn't think any of them lived up to their, like, especially Joaquin Phoenix. He didn't live up to his performance in the first movie, which, I didn't really like anyway. And so going into this one, I was thinking, okay, well, at least it's going to be as good as he was. And I know you guys don't feel that. But
Actually,
I do.
no, I will agree to that point. So I thought he did a good job with what he was given. But yes, and if you do compare to the first movie, I don't think he performed the same way, but I don't fully blame him for that. I blame the story for that because I don't think the story allowed him to be the same performative Joker that we, expected.
No, it
And
didn't.
he was very much constrained and sort of limited. Like, you can tell that he did a lot of what he did in the first. He lost the weight. He got himself, into that mode. He was ready to be the Joker, and then they're like, you don't get to be the Joker.
Yeah, not this time.
And that was the plot, and that was the writing, which
Yeah,
I agree
yeah.
with Doug. I still thought he did a great job, but
Yes, compared to the first
limited
movie, yeah,
by the plot. But should we rate it, guys?
I think so.
That's rated.
This is going to get a higher score than you think with what I've said, only because of the things I enjoyed about it. It's not an average film. I think it is below average, but I'm going to give it a 4 because I do think the performances, the actual score, not the musical pieces, the score and the cinematography brought it up. At least it made it a better film than what the plot gave us.
I actually, weirdly enough, I agree with you completely, which normally I'm kind of like in between the two of you, but I was kind of going back and forth. I'm like, is it like a 3 or a 4? But yeah, I landed, when we were walking out of the theater, I landed on a 4 as well. And yeah, I with you, the only thing that raised it up to that level is the fact that with what they were given, I think they did the best that they could. Very rarely will I blame, the actors for a bad movie, because a lot of times it is the script. It's what they're given. It's the poor direction, and I think that's a lot of what happened in this movie. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4. I think it could have been better. This is not something I would ever watch again.
And we talked about it before. They should not have made this.
No.
There was no need.
And I agree 100% there. I gave Rebel Moon a 0, so I'm going to give this a 2. This
Okay.
is, I don't even know how it got to a 2. I didn't even laugh or smile at any point in this movie. Anytime when they started a song, I mean, you could hear, well, I could hear Doug anyway, but I could also feel
What did you hear, Dave?
That's what I heard every time they started a song. And then I could just feel it, like the eye roll going through the theater every time. And it was not worth it. I would not recommend this movie to anybody, even on a streaming service. It was just a waste of money.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's not worth your time. And it is weird to feel a collective eye roll
Yeah.
in a theater that is dead silent.
Oh yeah, I got
Very,
a great
very
parking
weird.
spot.
Yeah, so that,
You know what? I kind of do want it to come out on streaming, literally so I can get the movie, cut out every one of the songs, just to see if it flows better narratively. I don't know that it will, but I think that might help. I'm curious. I kind of want to chop it up.
They're gonna put that out in steel box edition, which I know that you're gonna buy.
they'll have it right next to his Madam Web.
Right.
You know what? Compared to Madam Web was actually better because I could laugh at that.
Yeah, we did laugh at that.
Adam Webb was better than this movie, yes.
And
That's
just so you know, there is no post-credit scene. So if you
No.
do decide to go see it in the theater, you don't have to sit through the credits. But
Just
if you
get
do
the
see
hell
it,
out of there.
let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time on Not Your Status Quo.